The Electoral College is a unique institution in American democracy, one that has been the subject of debate and scrutiny since its first usage over 2 centuries ago. To understand its place in modern society, it's essential to discuss and understand its origins, examine who it benefits, assess its effectiveness, and consider its impact on contemporary voting practices. In the summer of 1787, delegates from the 13 original states gathered in Philadelphia to create a new framework of government. The Articles of Confederation had proven inadequate, and there was a pressing need for a stronger federal structure. Among the many contentious issues debated was the method of electing the nation's president. The Founding Fathers faced a complex dilemma: how to devise a system that balanced the principles of democracy with the practical challenges of the time. Several proposals were on the table. Some delegates advocated for the president to be elected by Congress, believing that legislators would be best equipped to make an informed choice. However, this raised concerns about the separation of powers and the potential for legislative overreach into the executive branch. Others pushed for a direct popular vote, trusting the wisdom of the people to select their leader. Yet, in an era without mass communication or widespread literacy, many feared that voters wouldn't have sufficient information about national candidates, especially in distant states. The compromise that emerged was the Electoral College, a system that aimed to bridge these concerns by involving both the states and the people in the electoral process. Each state would appoint electors equal to the total number of its senators and representatives in Congress. These electors would then cast votes to determine the president and vice president. This approach was designed to balance the influence of populous and less populous states, ensuring that neither group would dominate the election. One of the underlying reasons for adopting the Electoral College was the limited communication and education of the time. The Founding Fathers were constructing a government for a vast and diverse nation where news traveled slowly, and many citizens had little access to information about national affairs. By entrusting the final decision to a body of electors presumed to be more informed, they hoped to safeguard the presidency from potential demagogues and ensure that only qualified individuals would ascend to the nation's highest office. Moreover, there was a palpable fear of factionalism and the tyranny of the majority. The founders were cautious about direct democracy, worried that it could lead to mob rule, where fleeting passions might override reason and justice. The Electoral College was seen as a buffer, a mechanism to temper popular whims and protect minority interests. Another significant factor influencing the creation of the Electoral College was the delicate issue of slavery. The infamous 3/5 compromise, which counted enslaved people as 3/5 of a person for purposes of representation and taxation, directly affected the allocation of electors. Southern states, where slavery was prevalent, gained additional representation without granting voting rights to the enslaved population. This bolstered their influence in presidential elections, a reality that would have lasting implications for American politics. Over the years, the Electoral College has functioned as the method for electing U.S. presidents, but it has not been without controversy. Its design inherently benefits certain groups. Smaller states, for instance, have a disproportionate influence because every state, regardless of population, is guaranteed at least 3 electoral votes. This means that a voter in a less populous state like Wyoming has more electoral power per person than a voter in a populous state like California. This imbalance raises questions about the principle of one person, one vote, and whether the system truly reflects democratic ideals. Swing states, or battleground states, also gain significant advantages under the Electoral College. These are states where the outcome of the election is uncertain, and as a result, presidential candidates focus their campaigns heavily on them. Issues pertinent to voters in swing states receive outsized attention, while those in states considered safely Democratic or Republican may feel overlooked. This focus can skew national policies and priorities, as candidates tailor their platforms to win over a relatively small segment of the electorate. The major political parties benefit as well. The winner-takes-all approach, adopted by most states, means that third-party candidates have little chance of securing electoral votes unless they win an entire state. This reinforces the two-party system, limiting political diversity and making it challenging for alternative voices to gain traction on the national stage. Rural areas often find their interests amplified through the Electoral College. Since less populous states tend to be more rural, their increased electoral influence means that candidates must address rural concerns. While this ensures that these communities are not ignored, it can also lead to an imbalance where urban issues affecting larger populations receive less attention relative to their significance. Given these dynamics, many have questioned whether the Electoral College remains the best system for electing a president in the modern era. Supporters argue that it preserves the federal character of the nation by balancing state and national interests. They contend that it requires candidates to build broad coalitions across diverse regions, preventing a handful of populous areas from solely determining the election outcome. The system is also credited with contributing to political stability by encouraging a two-party system, which some believe facilitates governance and reduces fragmentation. However, critics highlight several shortcomings. There have been instances where the candidate who won the popular vote did not become president, such as in the elections of 2000 and 2016. These outcomes challenge the democratic principle that the majority's choice should prevail and can undermine the perceived legitimacy of the elected leader. The winner-takes-all mechanism can disenfranchise voters whose chosen candidate loses in their state, as their votes do not contribute to the national outcome. This can lead to voter apathy, particularly in states where one party dominates, discouraging participation because individuals feel their votes won't make a difference. Also, the emphasis on swing states skews campaign strategies and national discourse. Candidates concentrate resources and policy proposals on a limited number of states, potentially neglecting the needs and concerns of voters elsewhere. This not only affects voter engagement, but can also result in a national agenda that doesn't reflect the priorities of the broader population. The barriers faced by third-party candidates under the Electoral College limit political competition and the expression of diverse viewpoints. In a system where only the winner in each state gains electoral votes, there's little incentive for voters to support candidates outside the two major parties, reinforcing the existing political structure. Furthermore, many of the original justifications for the Electoral College no longer apply. Advances in communication and education mean that voters today have unprecedented access to information about candidates and issues. The fears of uninformed electorates are less relevant, and the mechanisms intended to protect against them may instead be inhibiting a more direct expression of the popular will. The impact of the Electoral College on modern voting practices is significant. It shapes how campaigns are run, where resources are allocated, and which issues are highlighted. Voter turnout can be affected, with higher engagement in swing states and potential disillusionment in states perceived as non-competitive. The unequal weighting of votes challenges the fairness of the electoral process and can contribute to political polarization as parties focus on mobilizing their bases in key areas rather than appealing to a broader electorate. Public perception of the Electoral College is mixed. While some appreciate its historical roots and the balance it aims to strike, others view it as an outdated system that distorts the democratic process. Discrepancies between the popular vote and electoral outcomes can erode trust in the system, leading to calls for reform or dissolution of the Electoral College in favor of a direct popular vote. As society evolves, so too does the discourse around how best to elect leaders. The debate over the Electoral College reflects broader questions about representation, fairness, and the values that underpin American democracy. Some propose modifications, such as allocating electoral votes proportionally within states or adopting the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact, where states pledge their electoral votes to the candidate who wins the national popular vote once enough states join the agreement. In assessing the Electoral College, it's essential to consider the balance between honoring historical frameworks and adapting to contemporary realities. The institution was born out of a specific context, addressing concerns and challenges of the 18th century. Today's world is markedly different, with technological advancements and societal shifts that have transformed how people access information and engage with politics. The ongoing debate invites citizens to reflect on the principles they hold dear and the kind of democracy they wish to cultivate. Is the preservation of state influence paramount, or should the emphasis be on ensuring that every individual vote carries equal weight? How do we reconcile the need for political stability with the desire for broader representation and inclusion of diverse perspectives? Ultimately, the conversation about the Electoral College is a testament to the dynamic nature of democracy. It underscores the importance of continual evaluation and willingness to evolve in pursuit of a system that best serves the people. Whether through reforming the existing structure or embracing new methods of election, the goal remains the same: to create a fair, transparent, and responsive democratic process that reflects the will of the nation. As citizens engage with this issue, staying informed, participating in discussions, and considering the implications of various electoral systems are critical. The future of how America chooses its leaders depends on the collective will and making choices that align with American values and aspirations. In this way, we can ensure everyone has the opportunity to attain our country's promise of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.